Welcome to the More Business, More Life TV. And today's show, we're going to continue to talk about prosperity and the things that we are changing right now in this big change of a year, 2020. And before we jump in to introduce our guest here, I wanted to tell you just briefly that we're going to have another webcast coming up, and we're going to go pretty deep into some of the things that we're going to talk about even today. And for many of my clients, how we've been able to make an impact, help more of our clients, and thereby increasing revenue or even stabilizing revenue during our current situation. And so I definitely want to impress upon you, this is a live Q&A with me, so you'll be able to ask questions and interact and be able to make some changes in your business. And so go ahead. My team will help put the link here with this show so you can go ahead and register for that. And one of my clients, good friends, and also I'm a client of theirs as well, is my guest today, the owner of AndX Entertainment, Andy Johnson. Thanks for being on the show, Andy.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Steve. Excited to be here with you.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I think, you and I've been wanting to get on and do an interview on this for quite some time because, your industry has been impacted and together, because I run a lot of events too. And you and I, work on those together on some of those. And we've definitely seen these things. So I guess my first question right out the gate is, when you noticed that this was going to be a long-term thing, like it wasn't a short-term gain, that this was going to be a long-term change that has occurred in 2020. What became most important for you in your business when you noticed this is going to be big and long?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is when I was seeing those changes kind of come to fruition and take place, is just being able to really kind of focus and go back to our kind of core purpose of, well, what's our value and what's our identity as a business, and that's where we were able to really spend some time, because once we realized that, hey, events is our core focus as far as being able to help people, it doesn't matter which avenue that we have to do. And so since, with COVID and everything like that, those parameters, I can't change that. I can't change and force people to get together because of the environment and what we're in. What I can do is I can adapt to that and harbor in, this virtual and other ways of meeting and connecting people that we have just touched on beforehand, but really not developed a whole lot. And so that was one of the big opportunities that we saw.
Beautiful, Andy. And I love that, sticking to your core. What is your core purpose? And then you're changing the way you're delivering on that purpose and what you're doing for your clients, but you're not yielding from what your core is. So
Right.
that's beautiful. And what would you say? We might talk about more successes as we go through the interview, but just right out the gate, what would you say has been the biggest success point in this period of change for you?
I think the biggest thing is really relying on my team, and I mean this. I come from an event background from DJing specifically, because live events is where we've done most of our things, and so I've always been able to know like audio, lighting, and quite a bit of video. But really, as we went into this virtual space, I basically had to give up my technical abilities, because now we're doing things that I haven't touched and I really haven't done for the most part. And so the trust has to go on their side to do what they need to do in order to back that up and fulfill that. And then on my side, I have to be able to know what I can work with and what I can promise clients as far as the sales and the front end things about what we can be able to showcase, and so that I can worry about that end. And so it's really taken a lot more focus, is what I would say, than what we had beforehand, to be able to adapt. But it's made us stronger. You have more people doing that. I mean, I'm looking at our calendar that we have for this next week, and it's okay. We have a lot of moving components that we need to make sure that we get done. And this is a 180 flip. This is a different playbook that we're playing, here in the fourth quarter of 2020 than what we were playing earlier in the first quarter. So.
Wow. Yeah. So basically, what I'm hearing is that, the success has been able to utilize your team and, be able to have other people with other expertise come in and be able to pull off these events and allow you to work as a team so you can deliver to your clients what they need with new modalities and new ways of doing things. And that has brought a whole nother level of success to your business. Is that,
All
did I
right,
hit
right,
that? Like,
exactly. Yeah, right. And the thing that I would just add on to that is because I focused really at the structure and what our core of what we have to offer, and I'm not putting myself in that technical role anymore. It's been able to really help us grow and elevate as a business to move forward and to do a lot of these things because it's not, figuring out everything. It's like, no, this is what we know we have to do. Now let's go and execute and figure out who we need, what additional resources we need to do in order to get there. And so, as far as sustainability, this is the most stable that I've ever been, which is crazy that it's happening during a pandemic. So,
right. Let me just hit that what you just said. So during this time where people are saying this is a year of tremendous instability, that you found the most stability.
all
Did I hear
right,
that right?
right, yeah, and especially in the way that I live. I mean, and this is one of the things I was excited to share with you. I'm about a 55-hour work week, which for me is a huge deal, and it's continually getting better and better. And the fact that I can, leave here at the office usually before 6 o'clock and check out for the rest of the night and then come back in the morning and everything. That's been a huge shift in my mentality and what I view, and especially what I focus on during the day. Because instead of just piling all these different things, it's like, no, we're going to be strategic. We have these few hours that we have today. What's my focus? What's my number one priority that I have to get done before I get here? And just knock that out, and then do a few other things. And it's an amazing thing on what I'm actually able to do even though I'm not working as much.
So just for perspective, so you're working about 55-hour work week, which is change for you. So what was it like before? Just to put contrast on this, like what share what it used to be like.
Yeah, yeah. So I was about really 80 plus is where I was at for, really once I started to do my business full time and take the full entrepreneur plunge, which was in 2017 in the fall, is when I had let go of a marketing manager position at an internet company that I was at before. And it's like, okay, well, I'm all in. If I'm going to do something, I'm not going to do it for someone else's accord because I don't want there to be a ceiling that I hit and then can't break through. And since then I just kind of got in, this state that I had to work harder and I had to do more in order to have the growth and have the company that I wanted to have to sustain. And really it wasn't until this pandemic that really, shared with me. It's not about necessarily doing more. It's about doing the right things and being strategic. And it's super nice because honestly our clientele is bigger that we're working with, but it's smaller and the fact of how because we're doing more things more frequently with people than we are just doing these one-time events, and then we're off to the next people. And so relationships have been better, consistency have been better, more wow clients have been found as a byproduct on that one. And just the way that we're able to function on these different projects is so much more rewarding for us as a team when we're succeeding. Like I was just over there just a little bit ago, and they're nailing it and really doing great job for a financial planning group, and that just has so much satisfaction for me knowing that they're taking care of it and things are getting done, and where my role and position is not directly hovering in all things of that sphere.
Yeah, you're able to be here and do an interview with me.
Right. Right, exactly.
You yeah, because I remember, like, early in our relationship, you might not have had time to do this.
No, no,
So
because I would have to be over there managing or figuring out or troubleshooting or something like that. So it shows number one, a development of team first and foremost, and then where we're at as far as a structure. And so it's been really fun to come here, and it's so nice to come, and I don't walk in the door and think, oh, problems, so many problems that I have to solve. It's coming to work and it's like, hey, what do I get to work on? Oh, I get to talk with this person and have this lined up. And so I have my own identity and focus again, I find, rather than just feeling like I'm a victim in my business, which is what I felt honestly, for the previous years that I'm being able to get out of and have my life back, which has been a great thing.
Well, and just to speak to that, when that was happening, just because you and I both know we're not the only ones. Like I know I felt that way when I got started, and not even just for a short period of time, for a lot more years than you did, and that's the cool thing about mentorship and like our ability to work together, because looking at you, like just in 3 short years went through something that maybe took me a decade, which is awesome. And just for when you were in that, and that like you put it, the victim mentality, how is that affecting your life? Just to go on it just for a minute, just because I know a lot of others will relate to this. But how is it affecting you when you're dealing with all that?
Yeah, I felt like I didn't have a lot, and that stemmed from not, being worth a lot. And so that's kind of what I felt at my core. And so I viewed it as, well, I have to work harder, I have to be smarter, and I really have to, figure out the ways to be able to do this. And I felt like that I had to come up with all the solutions to all the different problems that I was facing. But it really wasn't until I could really open myself up, which, has helped me greatly in mentorship, to understand things on a deeper level and look at what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, and why I'm doing it, and kind of go at some of those core issues to realize, hey, I need to be focusing my time here as far as what I'm I know looking and questing for, as far as really building sustainability, but I'm not always rushing over and putting out the fire here and there. And specifically just being able to know that we as a team, have grown, and it's taken a lot of trust, for some handoff and some delegation that I really didn't want to do for a while, because I'd always been let down before. Well, I'm like, well, am I going to continually just grip and hold on to this because this is my business and my baby? Because if that's the case, then I might as well be the only one in my business. And the answer is no. And as soon as I said no, I could let that go. And we've had learning opportunities. And I was talking with someone last week. I'm like, do you know who's made the most uh, errors and bad decisions in this company? This guy right here.
Yeah,
And
pointed ourselves.
Right, and I'm completely okay with that, and that's built me to who I am, because I have, I'm pretty direct and specific as about what I view success at, because of those failures. And sometimes it takes learning some of those things as a team, and I definitely want to share all that I can with my team of what I've learned, so that they don't have to go through the same pain, because now we can be able to really move forward because of experience and because of what we have collectively.
It makes sense. And this is like you brought up the mindset of it. It is really an internal process alongside of the technical outside things, the procedures that we have to run while we're working on our internal trust and our value of who we are and how we're showing up. So it touches on a lot of things, and I want to come back to that, but just to get context even further, can you just share people with people what Andex is and what your core purpose is for your business?
Yeah, you bet. So, AndX Entertainment, we typically work with event directors and marketing personnel to be able to fulfill a lot of their frustration and logistical challenges, to make quality events that will have a lasting impact and help raise the experience with them, specifically for their clients. So, is what we do. So,
Beautiful.
we're an
Beautiful.
AV partner is the biggest thing that is can be summarized.
Beautiful. And and that's where, again, coming back to that core purpose, even though you're not gathering in groups in locations, you've been able to take that same business. So maybe share, because you've done some awesome stuff, so just to highlight a few and give you some kudos here. So if you're not going to bring them up, I'll ping you on them. But you know going back to what you said at the beginning of this interview, you've been able to hold your core while changing the way that you're delivering that. And some things, like you took over a drive-in movie theater. You've been, even I think you did a high school graduation. I mean, you found a lot of ways, like really quickly. Yeah. So
Right.
maybe just we might not be able to touch all of them, but just maybe give a couple highlights of how much you've pivoted to be able to provide this to your clients right now.
Yeah. So with the drive-in, we had been we'd been looking at the drive-ins here in town, and then uh, I reached out to them, for one of my 10-minute calls to just introduce myself, find out who they were, what they were up to, and everything. And it was crazy because so we do a holiday project called Deck the Falls, which is decking out the Idaho Falls waterfall right here. And so we do a projection map to do a Christmas show right on the waterfall is what we do. And they had came to that and saw our capabilities and everything and wrote down our name and said, we need to talk to these guys about the drive-in. So when I do my 10-minute call, the universe is aligning itself and we connect. And they're like, oh yeah, we know who you are, we know what you do. So yeah, when can you come over talk so we can kind of finalize? And it was really, just aligned itself really well to be able to get there. So, and then yeah, we did 7 high school graduations, so we were able to help keep intact, graduation for a lot of those seniors. Which I mean, they've worked so hard for all their schooling, and that's what they like one of the pinnacle moments. And so to be able to see
Right.
those kids on our big 128-foot screen and hear tons of cars like yelling, honking, just a commotion and everything like that, was worthwhile and help filling to me to be able to know that I had a part to be able to help bring that here for the community. And so we were able to do some broadcast concerts with like Garth Brooks and Metallica at the drive-in, and then we actually hosted our own concert there with David Archuleta is who we brought in for that one. And so we were able to do a lot of things socially distant and safe for that one is what we were able to do. And virtual conferences have been something that's really taken off. And then we also where I'm at now is one of our convention center breakout rooms. And so even though we're not meeting tons of people there, we're primed and ready for when we can get back in person to be able to help with the facility side of that as well.
Well, yeah, just kudos for your willingness to think different. And now here we are, like 7, 8 months, and but you were doing this. You and I were already having discussions around this, as early as April, like what you're going to do. So, I know that like many other event businesses, you had a dip, but now I know you've been able to ride this up and you've closed some of the biggest deals of the history of your company. So I'm just curious, maybe just to highlight a couple of those big successes, those big wins for you and your company during this time, due to your thinking differently.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest things is, goes back to those 10-minute calls and just being able to really tell your story and connect with other good people. Because I found as I consistently do that, there comes a time where we have an intersection point that I might need them for something on what they're doing, and they might need me for something on their doing. And just being able to build those contacts and those resources has been huge. And so I was able to meet Marie actually at a training of yours, Steve, that we were doing for Win-Win Weekend. And she was an event planner. I was an AV event specialist, and so we're like, oh, that's way cool. And so, but I'm like, I don't know if something will ever work out. Well, she gets in a new role and a position, and they have to go virtual. And then she's like, oh, let me reach out to Andy because of that's his capability. And really, we were capable, but we hadn't built everything on that. And so, we were able to say, yeah, we could do that. This is our plan and this is our projection on doing that. And we're able to execute at a high level, and learn a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot. And then we got it down to a better science. And then we were able to pick up, 2 other customers based off of that one. And so it's just kind of snowballed and gained traction. And that's been one of the biggest things that I've realized is that rather than spending marketing dollars, to be able to tell people on what we do, I'm going to put an extra polish and an extra touch on the events that we do to make sure that it's worthwhile for people that are part of that, and then also of those that are doing events that hey, that was quality. We want to do that over here at ours to make sure that we just have that continuation.
Yeah, there's definitely some genius marketers that I've met in the past, and it's not unheard of. But although I would say that it's not as often as we'd probably like to see, but there are many marketers that would say invest in your clients. That's one of the best marketing things you could do. Is the
Right.
people that are already buying from you, give them more and use that. You can even put that as marketing budget, but give them more love, shower them with more gifts, and it will come back to you. So that's exactly what you're talking about here.
Right. And the group that my team's doing over there, collectively, those individuals oversee $1.2 trillion in assets that they have. And so I'm like, oh, well, we got to make sure that the carpet is rolled out and these people are feeling fine, because we want to pick up some of those people and what they're doing as far as their events and their connections worthwhile. So it just makes me realize, as you continue to really know what your focus and value is, there will always be work and opportunity for you as you continue moving up. The hard part is mastering that and then focusing to know where to spend that time at, because I've been great at being busy, I've but it took me until really this year to really zone in and focus on doing the one thing that I need to do in order to move things to the next level.
So beautiful to hear. And, from our time together, and thanks for highlighting a few of those things. I'm curious, as you worked with me and worked through my mentorship program and now being a part of our Freedom Council, what if you were to highlight one thing, maybe there'll be time for more, but if we just picked one thing, what would you say has been the greatest thing that's given you the most value or most results from what you've learned from myself and my team?
Yeah, so I'm involved with a local mastermind group, and I was able to use one of your teachings, Steve, as as we were working. He was in the hot seat today, and he was working on this many business adventures all at once, 8.
8.
Okay, so I draw on the board and I say, hey, so here's the startup side, here's the revenue side, and then we got to build that bridge. And right now you're trying to build that 8 different times. And that just goes back onto focus, is that sure, we could be spending our time on 8 different things, but really it matters what we do in focusing on building one of those bridges, getting that to connect, and then thinking, okay, now we can move our bridges and our teams and other things. And what I've realized, because I feel like I've been at a critical point, like almost ready to launch. Like I've almost been ready to launch. I feel like, when I was starting to work with you back in 2018 and almost getting primed and ready. And it wasn't until like 2020 that I had my mentality and my focus and the skills that we had could collectively actually start to launch. And I feel like we've launched off of the pad. Have we gone far? Not to where we know we can go, but we've started that process, and that's what gives me a lot of excitement, is because I feel like I've finally been able to unlock something, and that is the ability to focus specifically on making something happen. Because so often I would jump off up to the next thing and up to the next thing, and I never would finish that one thing. Well, that one thing, was that final step to really make that thing complete. And doing that with a team, doing that with a process, you know, now that I have some forms of completeness in my life, I realize of how many things weren't complete before and how I can even do better at this point now. So I appreciate that,
Beautiful.
and thank you for helping me understand that.
You're you're welcome. I know at a young age, like, I watch so many other business people and investors, and they're always about diversifying multiple streams of income, which is amazing and actually correct. You do want those multiple streams of income, but what no one told me, and it didn't occur for a long time. I wish I learned it sooner, but it was meant to be. Like, I know I was meant to go through this, was to focus on one at a time. You don't build all those streams at the same time. And that was never explicit to me, the people that I was around or the way that I was learning. And once I realized that, it's like, yes, you can have multiple streams of income, but build one stream at a time. Unless you have gobs of money in the bank and you can hire a bunch of teams and you can
Right,
build multiple businesses. But again, that usually comes later. That means you already have streams of income. So then you can invest in more businesses and let other people do the work. And that's where you get that idea of let your money work for you instead of you work for money. That takes
right.
some time to get there. So I'm curious, having this focus now and being able to bring things to completion. And now it sounds like you're starting to complete more things. Oh, I completed that. What's the next thing to complete? But since you're focusing on one thing at a time to complete, what does having that do for you, Andy?
It makes me feel like I'm accomplishing my purpose, and my purpose is being, to truly raise the experience as far as how I view myself on my capabilities and my skill set, but also as a team and as a company. that we're able to do that even on a higher skill and level. And so it's the fact that we're growing, it's the fact we're improving, is what gets me the most excited about.
That is amazing, and thanks for sharing all this. I'm curious, what else is there is there another big thing that you think if someone else is looking out there now, there's kind of at this point in 2020, there are people that have made the changes and they're working harder to hold on to all these changes, or they're still trying to pivot and still trying to figure it out. Either way, people have more anxiety. They're going through this. Um, besides what we've already gone over, what piece of advice could you give? Like, if someone's listening to this right now, like what one thing would you tell someone that's still working too many hours or still trying to figure out their change? What would you tell someone like that if you had a chance to tell them?
Yeah, I would, you know, ask them what their vision and really kind of clarify as far as what they're trying to get out of that, and then to make sure that they're doing the things every day to do that. Because if it's great that people have goals to get here, but if they're spending all their time honestly moving away in other directions and whatnot, then that's not really adding, to what people are truly trying to do. And so it's an experience that really involves some self-reflection. And I think that's one of the hardest things for me, with being able to understand, coaching, is that, guess what? I don't have all the answers, and I'm perfectly okay. Because before I thought that I had the answers, then I had to prove that everyone was wrong because I knew better and I know what I'm capable of. But it really wasn't until I was transparent with myself, and therefore for you, when I am doing mentorship, Steve, is that helps me see myself at a higher level of clarity, because I'm not putting on a facade. I don't have my defensive shields or other things. I'm just Andy. I'm just me, and this is where I'm at, and I can lie, I can deceive myself and pretend like it's not there, the pain's not there. Uh, but if I can just be transparent and just accept where I'm at, that sure, it might be messy, it might be painful or something like that, but at least that's where I'm at. Then I can actually have that traction, which is one of my favorite books, by the way, to make sure that things are moving forward in a way to be able to accomplish my dreams and goals.
It's so important. You just brought up like knowing where you are, and I often bring this back to GPS because many of us have used GPS now. Like you get in your car and it knows where you are, and you put in where you want to go, and really people don't realize, you don't think about it because it's right there. But the reality is you need both in order for GPS to compute. If you put in where you want to go and then you don't put in your current location, the GPS will not guide you. It will not know what turn to make and all that. And then we do this in our business. We like ignore where we are and just point our eyes towards where we want to go. And then we wonder why it's so difficult to get there, because we haven't given ourselves space to actually have a true map of like, okay, I'm going to accept where I am. And that lack of acceptance actually basically causes us to get into a turbulent space and not make the next decision. And you won't even know what decision to make because you're not quite sure. Do I go straight, right, or left in this moment right now? I know I want to get way over there. Like, either one of you and I are both on the western states of the United States. You're in Idaho, I'm in California. But the reality, if we wanted to drive to the East Coast and get to New York, you and I both could go completely drastically different ways. And for sure, even if we wanted to meet up, our starting point is definitely not the same, because maybe we'll meet in Colorado somewhere or whatever, but we could but again, it's different for each of us. So knowing where you are is, I think, understated. I think a lot of people, we're just so much in our dream, which is great, but we don't hit the point of what we're doing right now. And we're almost out of time, but I do want to ask this because we brought this up. How did you start to realize that you weren't accepting, and maybe just quickly on that, like, how did you start to accept where you were so you can make the new decisions? Was that a difficult process, or did it just like pop all of a sudden?
Oh no, it took me layers in different aspects of my business, is what it did, to realize that, I didn't have all the answers and everything. Started really, once I started my work with you, Steve, of realizing that, hey, there's a lot more things in this and that. Sure, I'm great, at meeting with clients and sales and everything like that. But when it comes to developing people, dang, it really sucks when I have to rehire for this same position every 4 to 5 months on different aspects of things. And so then I realized, oh, there's something about me and my expectation with other people. Well, that's not my expectation. That's my true connection with other people. And what do I need to do to realize where somebody is at and where I'm at to make sure that we have those hires and able to move forward on that. And then as I mean, one of my greatest honestly weaknesses that took me the longest time up until earlier this year was finance, because I wanted to be in control of finance and where the dollars and where things were spending. As soon as I took myself out of that finance director role and brought in a controller and my finance director, that's been night and day difference to give us financial stability. And I looked at my bank account yesterday. I'm like, wow, I didn't think it was that big. And that gives me excitement because guess what? I'd always look at my account and be like, we have payroll in 2 days. There's not enough in there. Like, what am I going to do? And so that's the type of frustrations that I would put myself in unintentionally, because I intentionally thought that I had the answers. And so once I started knowing what I was good at, knowing what I wasn't good at, and being able to set with that, it's been a night and day difference on how I live, how I view myself, and what we're able to achieve.
So beautifully said, and what a journey we just illustrated from going and just setting the point where you're looking at how can I make payroll to now, oh my gosh, we have that much in the bank account. What a thing to celebrate. And I think what we've really taken from today is one, knowing, accepting where you are, being willing to be vulnerable to yourself and the changes you need to make, and then be able to bring the team. So you do what you do best and delegate the rest. And then the other key component that we brought up quite a bit in today's interview is then to focus on the one thing that's going to make the biggest difference in what you're meant to do. And that combination has allowed you to, take a very unstable year 2020 and make it the most stable in your business, which is amazing, and closing some of the biggest deals in the history of your company and being able to help so many people like the high school kids graduate. What you should definitely be celebrating, Andy. Congratulations on what you've done, and I'm so thankful and grateful that you're sharing with us. And I know we're going to have you on the podcast as well, so folks should look out for that. We'll have a little bit more of a fireside chat and have a little
Mhm.
bit longer discussion. But I just appreciate you, Andy. Thank you so much for being willing to share today.
Yeah, and thanks so much for being able to share. I knew when I saw you on stage back in 2018, Steve, that there was a connection, that I felt. And it's like, okay, like I guess I'm gonna go to San Francisco and go to More Business, More Life and look, well, what's been able to transpire, and I love the fact that as we, take chances and follow our hearts more so than what our mind is telling us as far as what logical sense, we will be directed to those people that we need to touch, and especially the lives that we need to live and the income that we are all destined to make, because we all deserve what we can be able to yield out of this one. And there's so much to go around. There's not a shortage of money, not a shortage of opportunity. And as long as we're making the time count for what we're doing, we'll always be able to have more of that. So thank you for your work and what you do in your everyday life.
I appreciate that, Andy, and I believe in what you're saying. And it's I welcome the further conversation. I can't wait to have you on the podcast and take this discussion to another level and continue on. And for those of you watching today, remember we're live every Tuesday at 2:15 p.m. That's Pacific time, and we really want you to have more business and more life, like we illustrated with Andy. And I always start with our tagline: choose gratitude and create freedom. It's in choosing that gratitude that we can create our freedom. So thanks so much for watching today. We'll see you next week.